All right, everyone, welcome back to Cheddar's News Wrap on this Monday. The Democratic Convention is beginning this week. It is just the latest formal hurdle former Vice President Joe Biden needs to clear before the final stretch as we inch closer to Election Day now, just less than 3 months away. Join us now to talk all things convention is Congressman Khanna of the great state of California. Congressman Khanna, great to have you taking the time. I do want to begin here with the former Vice President and the Democratic Party as a whole. What does Joe Biden, what does the DNC need to accomplish over the course of the next 4 nights?
I think we have to offer our economic vision for rebuilding our country and helping the working class. We know people are hurting. We know that they are without jobs, in some cases without health care, without the ability to make rent. We need to convince people by the end that we have a better vision than Donald Trump for rebuilding America.
Of course, here, Congressman Khanna, a lot of outside observers are quick to understand that you are not planning to formally back the party platform here, and your big sticking point is Medicare for all. I think you and many other so-called progressives, you're very well documented that this is the defining issue of the moment. Are you concerned that by not backing what the DNC is prepared to put forward this week, that you are at all signaling to diehard progressives in this country that they should not be backing the Biden-Harris ticket?
Not at all. In fact, I've been very enthusiastic about supporting the Biden-Harris ticket. And the first line of the op-ed I wrote says we have 110% moral obligation to support that ticket to get rid of Donald Trump. I mean, Trump is trying to steal the election by rigging the post office. So you can't not be for removing him from office. But I think the great thing about the Democratic Party is it welcomes intellectual dissent. And support does not mean uniformity of thinking. We are in a crisis. A pandemic. Millions of people are losing their jobs. They should not lose their health care. It makes no sense to tie a person's dignity, their ability to get health care, to their occupation.
Are you greatly concerned about the laid out health care goals of Joe Biden and his now vice presidential pick, Kamala Harris? Clearly, these were 2 candidates that went against your candidate of choice, Bernie Sanders. They don't necessarily see eye to eye with the Bernie Sanders vision for health care. How concerned are you?
Well, Joe Biden won the primary. He has every right to have his vision for healthcare. But I think the party platform is different. We had Medicare for all as part of our goal since 1980. It was the dream of FDR and Harry Truman. We should not abandon that goal in our party platform to say that is our aspiration. I'm hopeful when Joe Biden is president that we can get Medicare extended. It may not be as fast as some of us want, but at least let's get it extended to 55 or 50 and take steps in that direction.
Congressman Khanna, what gives you confidence that a Biden-Harris White House is going to be appropriately receptive to the concerns of progressive-based voters in this country?
The movement. I mean, look at all the people who are winning. Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman and Mondaire Jones. I mean, you look at the energy of this party. It's with progressives, the activists. And my view is that the vice president, once he's president, will be attuned to that. He's a very skilled politician. I mean that in a good sense. You don't become nominee if you're not, and he's shown a willingness to listen, and I think he'll see where the energy of the party is.
So just to clarify here, I mean, you and I have talked many times about the role of the Justice Democrats there on Capitol Hill. As of right now, I believe there are 7 of you in the 116th Congress. You mentioned Cori Bush. You mentioned Jamal Bowman, a few other races outstanding. You're undoubtedly going to be adding to those numbers. So to clarify here, it sounds as if you're confident to say, hey, the progressive wing, so to speak, of the Democratic Party is going to be increasing in size and therefore increasing its relevance, its say at the table as part of the overall Democratic Party?
Absolutely. Certainly in Congress, we will be increasing our size and have a greater impact. But more importantly, I think all of the activism across the country is going to matter. And then the polls show overwhelming support for progressive policies. So we have to win. We have to be united in terms of that goal. But once we win, we should not be abandoning our progressive principles, especially when they're on the ascendancy in terms of popular support and activist support.
You, of course, were co-chairman of the Bernie Sanders 2020 campaign. Congressman Khanna, you know as well as I do, you may have a lot of progressive voters out there. They were diehard Bernie Sanders supporters. They are in that make and model, and they are disappointed not only to see how Bernie Sanders underwhelmed on Super Tuesday, but that, you know, it wasn't a Sanders, it wasn't an Elizabeth Warren who was chosen for that VP pick. What is your message? What do you want really passionate progressive voters to know who may be skeptical about this ticket?
Well, one, I think that Kamala Harris's story is inspiring. I mean, the fact that you have a daughter of immigrants who is African American, Asian American, ascend to becoming the vice presidential nominee is something we all should celebrate as a glimpse into a multiracial, multi-ethnic future. And second, I would say that Trump is a existential threat to our republic. I mean, someone who's willing to cheat for holding power and manipulate the post office shows he has no limits. So what I would say is, let's win. It's not going to be easy. We need to be united. Once we win, our party can continue to have the intellectual debates, and the progressive wing should not be shy in holding the administration accountable to achieve progressive ends.
And look, I've said for several years, I have no reason to think the Justice Democrats would not be adding to their numbers for this coming Congress. It certainly appears that that's going to be the case and will probably be the trajectory for the next few years, largely to your credit. But since you bring up the post office, you do serve on the Oversight Committee alongside Chairwoman Carolyn Maloney. Hey, you got Louis DeJoy 1 week from today. What do you need to hear from the Postmaster General?
Well, for JD, I just want to say on the Justice Democrats, you were the first journalist, I think, who called Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez winning. I still remember when you were texting back and forth. So you've been ahead of the curve in seeing the appeal of the progressive movement. I think DeJoy has to go. I mean, he has to resign. But what I want to know is what are the specific commitments to restore the voting machines? It's not sufficient that he said, okay, we're not going to take down more. Meadows has said that. He needs to say, how are we going to restore them? How are we going to have overtime shifts? How are we going to have proper staffing? How are we going to make sure that the post office has the resources and the plan to count, to ensure that the ballots are delivered? And I think there ought to be a statute with criminal penalties for both the Board of Governors and DeJoy for failing to implement a plan to make sure votes get to the election registrars on time.
Congressman Khanna, we need to leave it there. It's not just a big week for your party. It is a big, big moment for the Justice Democrats, you and your colleagues in that so-called progressive wing, however you want to describe it. Congratulations on the recent addition to those progressive policies that I know you hold and embody very closely to you. Congressman Khanna, thanks a lot for taking the time. We'll see you back here in D.C. soon.